Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good, Jonathan. How you doing?
I'm great. Hey, thanks for doing this. I know you're leading a super crazy busy life these days with what, you have 2 kids now?
Yeah, 2 kids, one 9 weeks and the other one 18 months.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Plus, you've got your 2 companies, so you're a busy guy. So thank you for doing this. I definitely wanted to ask you a couple questions because from knowing you now for a number of years, you are absolutely getting stuff done. And so if you would, tell us a little bit about, just real quick, who are you, what are you doing, so everybody knows you?
Yeah, absolutely. Started out, like many of the people probably listening, freshman year in high school, pushing a lawnmower around the neighborhood to pay for their car insurance. Ended up 5 years of college and evolving into a full-time lawn care and snow removal company in the Northeast. Currently employing 22 to 25 individuals. In addition, started a secondary company that focuses on business automation and sales and marketing, as well as employee recruiting, training, and onboarding.
Perfect. And that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you. I know that you just recently had an event in your company where all of a sudden you had to absorb a lot of new work, which meant you had to go find a bunch of people. And then I also know that you work with a lot of other companies, so you have a lot of ideas that aren't just things you figured out running your own company. You've figured them out by helping other people. So specifically, tell me about, if you would, tell us all about the event that you just had that necessitated the need to go find a whole bunch of people real quick. And with that, give us some clues on how we could solve our recruiting problems, because I think that's the big bottleneck that most of us are having.
Yeah, it seems like internally in my company too, we figured out, and bitched about everybody I talk about or talk to, is a way to find qualified employees that will even show up to an interview, let alone show up to the first day of work and do quality work and be dedicated to, your mission and values, what you're trying to do. So long story short, one of our subcontractors, their child had some health issues and he had to actually fly back to where they were from for some treatment. So a gentleman in good faith, since we had taken care of him as a subcontractor, handed over a sizable amount of lawn mowing contracts, short notice, obviously, with the health issues of this child. So we basically grew by 17% literally in a matter of 3 to 4 days, which you'd wonder how that would actually happen and not have the wheels fall off of the company if you actually go out and to fulfill those jobs and grow by 17% overnight, pretty much. So the key to success that we found prior to this to allow that acquisition to happen and actually go out pretty much flawlessly and absorb that many accounts is the ability to go out and recruit employees. And I like to use the analogy of stack the bench, almost like a sports team. So what we constantly do is we interview in our company every Monday, Wednesday, and occasionally Fridays for every position in the company, including my own. And the reason why we do that is we want the ability to not pick first applicant that comes in the door if we have to fill a gap. So now that we're pre-qualifying these employees and actually stacking the bench per se, we can rate them in an A, B, and C level with and without a license. So if we're looking for a crew leader with a license, we have a database of qualified people that have interviewed the last month or two that would fit that position. So this gives you some leverage in the field with your staff, because they know they're constantly, their job's on the line as far as if they're not producing, and they don't have you over the barrel per se and threaten you to quit when you don't have anybody to replace them. So that was a major issue as we started growing our businesses. The guys knew they had us, basically bent over barrel if they wanted a pay raise or they weren't producing. They knew we really couldn't do anything to replace them. So in order to grow the business, we really needed to have people that bought into our core values and mission. And we wanted to hire to the culture that we built in the company. So the best way of doing that was just to be constantly recruiting for every position. And in addition to basically keeping the guys honest in the field, if you have a major spike of sales, especially in the Northeast, where you may grow 15 to 20% in a matter of a month, you have that basically waiting staff that's ready to go, that's qualified, where you can actually call on them. I don't know if that makes sense, but we just proactively are hiring.
So how are you running ads all the time, or do you have a couple really successful ways to keep the funnel loaded with potential people to interview?
Yeah, so there's 2 or 3 things that are very key that we try to use. The first thing we do is if we have a core group of employees in the field or even in the office that we know that we really like their work ethic and what they believe in, we'll actually do a referral bonus of $250 for anybody they refer that stays with the company more than 6 months. So that's allowing us to actually go out and find people that are like-minded, hopefully with the same work ethic, right off the bat. The secondary thing is we hit the major channels such as Indeed, Craigslist, a couple other online sites where we actually have a 2 to 3 step automated interviewing process where they have to jump through multiple hoops before they get to our office. So we're pre-qualifying the applicants before they get to the interview. And then once they get to the interview, we run them through an automated training series of videos with questions to actually make sure they're going to be a good fit for the position, till they actually get to the field. And if they are a good fit, we've already set them in motion with set process and procedure, how we do everything. So when they get into the field, we're not just handing them a weed whacker, telling them hop on a lawnmower and go do the job. So it's helped with our retention, because at the end of the day, we're selling our company to the prospective employee as much as they're selling themselves. In order to go out and get a superstar employee, at least my feeling is, you really need to sell your company as a great place to work in an environment they want to be in and actually want to go to. It's not just a job. It would be a career, and we want them to buy into what we're actually trying to achieve.
Right. So for somebody that says that this all sounds awesome, I'd love to do that, but I'm so busy, I just don't have the time to work on recruiting, or I don't have the time to do anything you mentioned. What would you suggest? How did you get started? Like, is there a small baby step to start moving in this direction?
Yeah, I think even if you don't have the time and you're, for lack of a better word, still on the truck as a technician, but still running the business, and we've all been there, so by no means am I standing on a pedestal saying that I haven't been there, and my managers don't occasionally get back on the truck to fill some gaps. But I think that the only way you can be successful and at least get your life back from constantly plugging the gaps and being in a tight spot, and that's the one thing I hear from, hundreds of contractors throughout the year is, we just can't grow our business because we can't find qualified applicants, and there's just nobody that will show up for an interview. Part of the problem is you need to block out a few hours a week. It's just as important as getting the work done in the field and important as billing it out, that you need to start working on building a staff that can support you, that can get you out of the field if that's your goal. And even if your goal is to stay on the truck, which is perfectly fine depending on the size of business and what you want to get out of it, you still, in my belief, you really need to spend 2 to 3 hours a week, or even if it's an hour, working those ads first thing in the morning or over the weekends and interviewing those candidates, whether it's even a phone interview. But as soon as you stop being proactive about that, that's when you're going to get yourself in trouble. Even if you're a two-man operation and you need a technician with you running on the truck, you're in a major pickle if that person leaves or gets hurt. You have no backup. It's just you then. So you got to proactively be recruiting no matter what size you are, in my opinion.
Oh, man, I 100% agree. In all the different businesses that I've now been part of building, and I think back, I didn't have this revelation until really the last few years, now kind of putting all the puzzle pieces together and looking back at all the businesses, every one of them universally, and I've been in cleaning and lawn care and software, but in all these healthcare, but in these different industries, every one of them universally has the exact same problem. It's people. It's the bottleneck of every company. It's the slowdown. Once you figure out just your basic core marketing, it's the number one problem that everybody has, yet none of us are spending the majority of our time and effort on it. And I'm so convinced that it's the hindrance to most growth that I believe the number one job of the CEO is to, and you alluded to this, but the number one job of the CEO is to be recruiting, to be building the team, making sure you have the right people on the team. The old saying, you have the right people in the right seats on the bus, basically doing the right jobs, and that you're getting rid of the wrong people so they don't destroy your culture, and that they're following the vision, that you have the people, again, all the stuff you sort of said. I believe to my core that is the most important thing, your most important charge, and it starts when you're little bitty, and it never ends as you grow the company to whatever size.
I was going to say, just as you're starting out and growing and scaling, one of the things I found very helpful is, okay, we've got an organizational chart of all the positions and all the responsibilities, and you may be wearing the hat of maybe several positions at this point, but it's helpful to go 3 to 5 years, I predict, preferably like three years out, and build out what that org chart is going to look like. And so you're not immediately trying to hire for the positions you have, but you're starting to build a leadership team or a management team around what that future team looks like. So as you're going out recruiting and constantly interviewing these people 2 to 3 times a week, if there's an individual that stands out and says, hey, maybe this guy would be a perfect fit for that position I have 2 years down the line, you may be able to work it in your budget. That's just the ideal candidate, because if you're not actively looking and knowing what you need down the line to be successful, it's too late when you need them immediately.
Great advice. So what we've done, I'm wondering if this is your approach or if you have a better or a different way. So basically what we've done is exactly what you said in terms of thinking about, okay, here are the positions, and in other words, here are the different hats that need to be worn throughout the organization in terms of what the company will look like if we hit our goal and our vision in 3 years. Are you putting, so imagine you have that, that's what I think you're saying. Are you then putting names to this right now, saying, okay, Mike's wearing this hat, this hat, this hat, I'm filling all these positions. Are you going that far with it and thinking and identifying who's in each of the roles now, and then thinking too, okay, Mike, meaning you, I'm in this role, and this role, and I need to get Mike out of all these roles, so Mike's just doing this one thing. Or do you think about it that way, or is it nothing more than just identifying what you might need in terms of positions out in the future, so that your mind is zeroed in and focused on that?
No, Jonathan, you absolutely nailed it. I mean, internally, what's going on in our company is, in the lawn care company right now, as it is, I have no desire to be involved in the day-to-day operations within 3 to 5 years. So right now in the present company, there are some functions that I'm doing and wearing multiple hats as well as my manager. So we've built out an organizational chart for today, but my manager may be doing sales and marketing, and he may be the quality control, and he may be the direct report for one of the two admin. So at scale, as we grow 3 to 5 years, they're going to be separate individual roles with a specific measurable target. So, for instance, our quality control person would be literally, their whole matrix and what we're going to base them on is literally customer retention, avoiding churn, and quality control, and making sure the crews are working to the process and system. But right now, obviously, we're not at the scale where we can have a dedicated quality control. So that manager is a quality control, part-time salesperson, and part-time trainer as far as the guys in the field. So each one of those positions is dialed out, and that person is listed at each spot. So we know right now who's being held responsible to each one of those goals, but at scale as we grow, we know that'll be a separate position.
Thanks for that. That's fantastic advice.